Hey everyone, how you doing today? We are the real estate ladies of North Atlanta, Mary Ellen Vanaken and Sue Jennings. And here we have another podcast for you. And today we're talking about what are the pros and cons of buying a home. Right,
Yes,
Sue?
we are. We are
Okay.
because not everybody is a homeowner, and some people are meant to be renters for their life. But
Yes.
we like to explain the advantages and disadvantages to everybody so that they know whether they should buy a home or not. So the pros we're going to talk about today are equity building, and as far as when you pay down your mortgage and so forth, how your wealth grows in that property, assuming the property value is going up. We're going to talk about stability and security, the tax benefits, the freedom to customize your home, and the sense of pride in home ownership. Those are all the pros we're going to talk about. And then as far as the cons, we're going to talk about the financial commitment, the lack of flexibility, market risks, maintenance and upkeep, and limited liquidity.
Interesting. Those are definitely interesting topics.
Mm-hmm.
So let's dig right in here and go on the first one, which is equity building, which we all love that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, how a mortgage works when you own a property is every time you pay your monthly mortgage payment, you're paying something towards your principal, your interest, and maybe your taxes and your insurance and your HOA possibly. But every time you make a mortgage payment, you pay a little bit less towards interest and you pay a little bit more towards your equity, so to speak, your principal.
Yes. So that's really interesting. So building equity, and as your house increases in value every year, and here in the Metro Atlanta area, we usually see between 5 and 10%, right? Overall, I'd say, historically, some years more, some years less. Yes, the last couple of years have been more. But if you just look historically in the last 30 years, it's more up towards the 10% side than the 5. But overall, that's a good guess.
Right. And not all markets across the country are the same as Metro Atlanta. Metro Atlanta's got extremely strong job growth and opportunities for people to, live, work, and play here for the most part.
Yeah, and I think also in parts of Metro Atlanta, it's going to be higher. In different subdivisions, it's going to be higher. So that's just kind of an overall. So you might want to look at that too. Of historically, if you're looking at a specific area and subdivision, what is the increase in value for the past 10 years, and kind of get that guidance if that's really important to you. I feel like everything in the Metro Atlanta area, especially the area we cover in the North Atlanta area, that you are not going to go wrong of purchasing a house and losing value on it. Because a lot of people come in and go, "Oh, I don't want to lose any money on my house." And I'm like, you're not going to lose. So historically, you're not going to lose. So there we go.
One of the big factors that really secures, the equity values here, not just jobs, but also the quality of the education system here and the schools and so forth, which help to boost the values of a lot of these homes and make them very attractive to families and as well as individuals.
And people right now are looking at lifestyle too. They're looking at, they want to be in an area where there's a great lifestyle for their specific family. So we're seeing a lot of live, work, and play areas, which has really grown in the last 5 years here in the Metro Atlanta area. So you actually don't have to get in your car and go to the grocery store or go to a restaurant or go to work out at the gym or go to the park. Everything's within walking distance. So they have really kind of built up from that. That's one kind of area. And then you have the big subdivisions that have the swim and tennis communities where it's a big community that you're in, anywhere from, you can have homes from, a little community of 20 homes to 2,000 homes. So you kind of have to look at what areas you want to go for there. So.
Right. And we also are close to lakes here, like Lake Lanier for boating. We're close to the Blue Ridge Mountain area and Appalachian Mountain area. So people can hike, they can go for vacations, they can do an Airbnb on a weekend if they want to. They can hike a lot of the trails. We're also not that far from the beach either. You can go south to the Panhandle of Florida in just a couple hours, and you can go down through South Carolina and go to Hilton Head and hit all the Golden Isles.
Yeah, so it's very interesting because some people, like if they're working from home, they are picking between a couple different cities throughout the US. And equity wise, I think Atlanta is a really good choice right now.
It really is. So one of the great benefits of owning a home is the financial growth and stability that it offers you. It's security for your family, and you have control over your living space, and you don't have to worry about rent increases. You don't have to worry about landlord restrictions. Now, granted, we do get tax increases, for our city and our local taxes and so forth, our county taxes, they can go up, but that's anywhere you live. That's not just strictly restricted to the Atlanta area.
Yeah, and a good example of why you kind of want to own a house and not rent, because a lot of times you're at the mercy of your landlord. If the landlord decides to give you 60 days and you have to get out, that's not fun. Moving your family, moving your kids out of the schools they're in. So, take that into effect. I think that's another little tidbit there, that you don't have the power, and the stability you do is when you do own a home.
Right. There's also tax benefits to owning a home. You can get deductions on your taxes depending upon your situation, of course, for your mortgage interest or for property taxes. Certain closing costs are tax deductible, and these deductions can lower your taxable income and your overall tax liability.
And let's talk a little bit about homestead exemption, right? What is homestead exemption, Sue? I can't say that too fast. Sorry. Blah, 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 blah.
So if your primary residence is in Georgia, you can apply for a reduction in taxes. It's called a homestead exemption. And you need to do that within the first year of homeownership.
Yeah, and that helps you with your taxes. And there's another little tax benefit that is property tax benefit here in Georgia that people tend to move here. If you're over 62 years old, some of the counties are going to give you a discounted tax rate that you don't have to pay the school tax and other things like that. So every county is different. We've got to look at the counties, but that's just another tidbit that people are like, wow. And property taxes are not that expensive compared to the North. So when people come from the North, they come from other places, they're like, whoa, the property taxes. So what is an average property tax? Is anywhere between a little less than 1% to about 1.5% of
right. I generally tell people that are not taking a homestead, or not taking like a senior exemption or something like that on their taxes, that it's about 1.25%.
Yeah, I like to say, depending on what county, so anywhere from, little under 1% to 1.5%. So put that into your consideration when purchasing a house, knowing what your taxes are going to be, and your insurance, you're going to know what that is too as well.
Right. So basically, home ownership enables you to have the freedom to customize your home, and you'll be able to personalize your living space, suit it to your preferences, and you can make improvements and renovations as you have the funds to do so, and make the upgrades in the home to make it the home of your dreams.
Yeah, like when you're renting, you can't, it's even hard to ask your landlord, can I change the paint colors, right? And then they want you to do it on your dime and not their dime, because they're like, this is the way the house is. So you can make your house your own. You can put in custom closets. You can put in granite countertops. You can put in quartz. You can do, you can hang things on the wall, right? You can put artwork up. Really customize it to you. It's fun. Home ownership is fun because you can just make it your own, right? Your own style. if you want to put pink polka dots in your room, you can do that. If you want to put dark black walls, I don't know. You just have to, until you sell it. When you sell it, you got to make it kind of neutral. when you're living there, you can just kind of do what you want to do with it, and just make it your own. And,
Right.
Kids love, to make their rooms their own, and they can, a lot of people will do like murals on the wall or just something like that. And, it's really trending for people when they are having a little new baby to have that really cool nursery that has the walls that match the crib and the sheets and everything like that. So really customizing your home is great. And when you have that terrace level basement, you can put, a pool table down there, and you could put, a bar down there and another kitchen. You can do a media room. You can do a workout room. Exercises room are really popular too. People like to exercise at home. So just making it your own.
One of the biggest restrictions we see with rentals is that a lot of landlords don't allow pets. So if you have more than 2 pets, it's generally easier for you to go ahead and purchase a home than to try to find a rental that will accept pets. So that's another real benefit too for, people, if they have, 2 little dogs and a cat or something, chances are a landlord's not going to accept.
Yeah. And we have so many stories about that. And I own I have 2 dogs myself. And I know that I also have rental properties that I don't allow any pets just because I'm kind of a clean freak, and I just don't want pets in my rental properties because of that. So you do restrict yourself if you do have pets, and we love our pets, but honestly, we don't know strangers how they take care of our houses when we do rent them. So having, you can have your own fenced in yard for your dogs. You can do everything else when you own a house. So those are definite big pluses.
Right, exactly. So Mary Ellen, early on, I mentioned that we're also going to talk about some cons to homeownership.
Cons, oh boy.
Right. So it seems like a very daunting, big financial commitment. It's probably the biggest financial commitment I'll ever take on in my life, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So I think that that's really important, that you really think about your financial position, and that you do have that down payment. You do have a slush fund for repairs and everything else. So when I tell people when they purchase a house, they should always have a slush fund that they have, just like how you have emergency funds in your financials, you should have a house fund for repairs, because Murphy's Law happens, right?
Right.
Buy a house, everything's in great condition. Then all of a sudden, 2 months later, the AC breaks. And you're like, oh no, I got to get it, or I have to fix it, and it's going to cost this amount of money. Oh no, the hot water heater, or oh no, those pipes burst, and I have to, so there's always those costs that are involved that you have to look at. So you have to look at your overall financial position and make sure that you're putting money in an account that you don't look at for those unforeseen situations. That's
right. And I also recommend that people that don't have a lot of extra money sitting around, that they go ahead and escrow their property taxes. Go ahead and escrow your homeowner's insurance every month, so that when those payments are come due, your mortgage company will go ahead and make those payments to your insurance company, to your city for the property taxes, and the county, and so forth. That just makes your budgeting on a monthly basis a lot easier.
Yeah, and most lenders will require for you to escrow your taxes and your insurance, and you can pay them on your own. Except, it's just easier that this is my payment per month. This covers my taxes and insurance for the year. I'm good with that. Now I just can deal with any kind of other things that happen in the house, or the monthly things that have to be done, like, changing your filter in your AC unit. And, all that stuff costs money. You don't realize, paint and carpet are inexpensive, or making it look pretty, but just like the little maintenance things of a house, if, you have to.
Even light bulbs have gotten expensive these days.
Oh my God. Yeah. And there's all different kinds of light bulbs. Blown away on all the light bulbs. So you have to look at what's what's allowed and what's trending, what might blow up. You don't want that to blow up in your face or in your house, right? So you have to
I
make
always
sure you have the
recommend hiring a qualified electrician rather than trying to DIY electrical and plumbing jobs.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. When it comes to electric and plumbing, that is one thing that I would just totally suggest you hire a professional on that.
Exactly.
Other things you can learn on YouTube anything, right? You can learn how to put in floors, you can learn how to put in granite, you can learn how to put in cabinets, you can do all that stuff, but sometimes, it's hard work, really
Right.
is.
Right. And you can make a mistake really easily and cost yourself a whole lot more money.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
one of the other cons I wanted to mention about owning a home is the little bit of a lack of flexibility. You've kind of locked yourself in just a little bit. And, we have had some people who've, moved here for 2 or 3 years and they're like, I don't know if I really want to buy because I know I'm going to have to
Mhm.
move again in 2
Mhm.
years. What are your thoughts on that, Mary Ellen?
Well, it's always in Atlanta, and I just have to take Atlanta, the metro Atlanta area, that um, even if you have to move in 2 years, you're still going to do okay. You're not going to lose money. So instead of paying the high price of a rental, you're better off purchasing a property. But flexibility wise is that you are, tied into that school district. You're tied into that. You always can move, but that's a lot of work and that's a lot of money.
Right.
So flexibility is something you have to look at too. You have to be
Right.
flexible in this world. You
Right.
really do.
Right. So one other other options you could have if you do purchase a property and you don't want to say the market looks like it's going to be a lengthy process at the time you want to sell, what you could do is hold it and you could rent it and keep it as an investment property. So you can turn maybe a negative into a positive there.
Yeah, and that's a really good point that a lot of people are really building wealth through real estate investing. And
Mhm.
what better to you buy your first house and you don't sell it, you buy the next one and you rent that one and that becomes rental income for you. So that
Right.
definitely is something that you can do as well.
Right. And I always tell my buyers that are thinking of possibly doing that down the road, let's check on the HOA restrictions before you purchase it so that whether you're going to have to go on a wait list perhaps to be able to rent the property at the time that you want to move, because we never know what that rental list is going to look like in 2 or 3 years. But if
And
we at least know
yeah.
what the rules are, it helps us prepare.
The rules are definitely important,
Right.
and putting yourself on the list, because sometimes these places have 5-year lists, and also making sure the numbers work, because the rental, it just might not work. The numbers of what that house it can rent for and your mortgage payment, it just might not, because when you're purchasing your house for yourself, you look at it a little differently than you do as an investor. So you have to kind of run the numbers there too.
Right. So we have no control over what the market's going to look like in 2 or 3 years. You could have a really, bump in the market and do really, really well in 2 or 3 years selling it. Or we could maybe have a little bit of a dip or a downturn or slowdown in the market, and it could be more difficult for you to sell it, in 2 or 3 years. It could take a little bit longer. That's all. Maybe
Yeah.
the price really hasn't appreciated a whole lot. So that's something that you have to weigh the pros and cons of when you decide to rent versus buy if you're going to be somewhere for just a couple years.
And what I will tell you too is when we talked about market value, we're talking really about single family homes. Townhouses and condos do not appreciate as much. And the HOA fees go up pretty much a lot every year. So you have to take that into consideration too, that sometimes if you do buy a condo or a townhouse, it's not going to appreciate as much in value as a single family home.
Right. I had a buyer a couple years ago that had narrowed her search down to a particular townhome and a particular single home, and she wasn't sure which she wanted to buy.
Mhm.
Both were in the area she wanted to live in. Both were in her price range. So we sat down and we did an analysis of what would the homeowner's insurance be in both. What's the the HOA cost in both, what are the property taxes in both, and we broke it down, and it actually turned out that the single home was less expensive in that situation, and that's the one she ended up buying. And today I still have contact with her, and we've looked again back at the townhouse versus that single home, and that single home has really appreciated much more than that townhouse did.
Yeah, so you really have to look at that. And then also when you're dealing with townhouses and condos, you're dealing with those HOA and the rental restrictions that we do see a ton of rental restrictions going on in that kind of market.
Right. But, as even though owning a home can make you a little bit less liquid, I think in the long run, it's the better investment into your future and your financial stability and the equity that you can build in the home. Plus just the pride of saying, I own it. And you're not, putting out perhaps, 40 to 60,000 a year in rent to a landlord and lining somebody else's pockets.
Yeah, I think that's important too, like talking about liquid. And that's why sometimes when you first purchase a house, you have to have that slush fund and put money in there. And then when you have the slush fund sitting there, you can also, you just have to keep with your budget, and the liquid money comes flying out. So
right. Yeah, you have to look at your long-term goals. You have to look at your lifestyle. You have to look at, what your dreams are and what you ultimately want to achieve, because these are all factors that you need to consider before making a decision.
Yeah, and I think the lack of liquidness in the money will pay off in the equity in the property. So that's kind of how I look at things too.
Right.
Sometimes you have to sacrifice, a little bit, and when you purchase a house, and then when you sell it, then you'll have that to buy a bigger house, right? A bigger or better house, so you kind of look at it there. Any other cons? Let's talk about some other cons we got. Anything else?
Maintenance would be the biggest one that I can think of that comes to mind. It's just not as easy to pick up and move. That's another one.
Moving is stressful. I don't care what anyone says. It's stressful. We deal with it all the time, and we want to make it easy. And there's one good thing about moving a bunch is that hopefully you get rid of a lot of stuff as you're moving, because it's like you accumulate. It's like you don't need, like, kind of like when you have like all of a sudden you're like, where did all this stuff come from, right? Or when you have to clean your closets every year and get rid of stuff. That's what you gotta kind of have to do. So I would say a con, of having a house and staying in it for a long time is sometimes people accumulate a lot of stuff instead of getting rid of it. So I always suggest some spring and fall cleaning, or even here, I call summer cleaning, because when the air conditioning's on and it's too hot outside, the best time is to go through your closets and go through things and bring it to Goodwill, or, give it to a good cause and just kind of get rid of stuff too.
Right. I'm a big advocate of giving to charities and giving to people that are less fortunate and that could use something, more than I needed at the present time. And I've done that many times in my life, and there's nothing like it as far as the satisfaction it gives you, as well as
I just my computer dropped for a second. So that was fun. Okay. Fun times. I'm back. Fun times dropping stuff. And then another thing is when you have like the kids run off to like college, and then they need all new stuff because they can't use the stuff that we have or something, and they run off to college, and then they come back with more stuff, and you're like, where did all this stuff come from? Right. And then they leave the nest, and then they go, and then you like, come get your stuff.
Mary Ellen, I think that's a topic we should cover in a future podcast about boomerang kids, because I think we can both talk about that situation pretty.
Yeah. And, it's just, whether, everything's so easy. You order from Amazon now, things come, and I always feel like when something comes in the house, something needs to go out of the house, so you don't have that much stuff. So, yeah. Right. So, I guess we talked about the pros and cons of buying a home. There's, there's great things of purchasing a home. I think everybody should own a home. That's my personal opinion. But some people do not want a home. So because they don't want to take care of it and they just want to maybe be a nomad and go from place to place, I guess, or they don't want to be committed to a certain home base, I guess.
I think there are points in time in your life where renting is the best thing for you.
Oh,
And there
absolutely.
are points in time in your life when owning a property is the best way to go too. Your life changes. You have to look at your lifestyle and what your needs are and what your goals are.
Yeah. And I think like a lot of people, when they're in, college and the first out of college, they don't know what they want to do. Then they might get married and they're like, they don't know what they want to do. Then they have kids and then they start thinking about school systems, right? So their life kind of goes, oh, well, maybe I should purchase a house and it needs to be in this school system because, now we have kids and this and that. So there's always like, our lives are always changing and we're always having changing events in our lives. So that's why you have to just look at what's best for you and your goals. So,
right. Exactly.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to us about what the pros and cons of buying a house is. We appreciate you listening to us. And we are the Real Estate Ladies of North Atlanta, Sue Jennings, Mary Ellen Benakin, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.